What if the feeling we rush to call love is sometimes just a warm blanket thrown over a colder truth, the ache of being alone that we don't want to face? Not a verdict, not a cynic's shrug, just an honest starting place. Picture a quiet night when the house finally stops buzzing. No notifications, no voices in the next room, no one asking how your day went. In that stillness, a smaller, braver question arrives. Am I reaching for someone because they are truly mine to meet, or because I'm trying to outrun the echo inside my own chest? Depth psychology doesn't scold longing. It asks us to trace the cord back to its source. When fear sits at the wheel, affection turns into strategy. Tenderness becomes a way to keep the lights on so we don't have to walk into the dark. I once met a listener named Mara, mid-30s, new city, good job, polished life. Every evening she put on a podcast, brewed tea, and opened a dating app not out of curiosity but out of relief. The conversation was less about two people and more about turning down the volume on an inner tremor. She didn't need judgment. She needed a truer map. Carl Jung would invite us to meet that tremor directly, because avoiding the shadow never dissolves it. It only teaches it to speak through our choices. When we mistake relief for resonance, we begin to edit ourselves in small, almost invisible ways, softening opinions, shelving hungers, saying yes when our body means no, and we call it maturity. But something in us knows the cost. The point here is not to denounce partnership or to glorify isolation. It is to tell the story straight. Any love we build on the flight from ourselves will eventually ask us to keep running. The first movement toward wholeness is to pause, to breathe with the loneliness without naming it failure, to notice the parts of us that are asking to be rescued, and to sit beside them as we would a startled friend. From that steadier ground, connection stops being a hiding place and becomes a meeting place. In the minutes that follow, we'll honor this pause not as punishment, but as the threshold where genuine love can begin, not the love that quiets your soul by drowning it out, but the kind that meets you where you are and doesn't require you to disappear. From childhood, most of us were handed a script, though we rarely noticed ourselves memorizing the lines. It sounded harmless enough: grow up, find someone, fold your life neatly into theirs, and you will be complete. Movies, family gatherings, even well-meaning friends repeated the chorus: being alone was temporary. Being partnered was proof that you had arrived. For many, this story offered comfort, yet beneath its promises lay a quiet bargain in exchange for belonging. You would soften your sharper edges, tuck away private dreams, and measure your worth by how well you fit into someone else's plan. I once heard a man in his 40s describe marriage as a golden cage. From the outside, it glittered with security, admiration, and stability. But inside, he found himself pacing restlessly, realizing he had traded his own voice for the reassurance of applause. Jung reminds us that when culture defines wholeness only through union, it blinds us to the deeper project of individuation. What society calls maturity often looks like predictability. Yet predictability alone can drain the vitality out of a human soul. This is not to condemn tradition or to mock companionship. It is to notice how easily the collective script can flatten the individual spirit. When the pattern is followed without question, love becomes performance, and identity shrinks to a role. If our only compass is social approval, we may look successful on paper, yet feel strangely absent from our own lives. Recognizing the script for what it is, a framework we inherited, not a law carved into stone, is the first step in reclaiming authorship of our story. And only from that recognition can we begin to ask the essential question, what if my path to wholeness cannot be contained in anyone else's lines? Carl Jung's work offers something far more unsettling and liberating than the cultural script. He invites us to stop outsourcing our wholeness and to turn inward, even if that path feels lonely or frightening. Jung believed that each of us carries an inner compass pointing toward individuation, the process of becoming our true self rather than the version society rehearses for us. This isn't a call to isolation for its own sake, but a reminder that no partner, no social role, no applause can substitute for the inner dialogue we avoid. Think of it this way, culture says. Find the one who completes you. But Jung counters, meet the one who already lives inside you. That inner encounter can feel like standing in front of a mirror that reflects not only your face, but also the hidden parts, the anger you've buried, the longings you've dismissed, the fears you'd rather keep in shadow. To step toward those reflections takes courage, because it means risking the loss of borrowed certainties. Yet Jung insists that only by confronting our shadow and embracing our solitude can we uncover the raw material from which genuine love and creativity arise. This invitation is radical precisely because it asks us to pause the frantic search outside and instead cultivate the ground within, to sit with solitude, not as punishment, but as the training ground for authenticity. It tells us that wholeness is not found in conformity, but in courage, the courage to listen to the unedited voice of the soul. And though the world may not always applaud that journey, Jung assures us it is the only path that can lead to a life that is truly our own. If solitude is the ground where the self takes root, then love, when it is real, becomes the sunlight that allows it to grow. But Jung warns us most of what passes for love in our culture is not love at all, but dependency dressed in tender words. Dependency whispers, I need you so I don't have to face myself. Genuine love says, I see you as you are, and I want to walk beside you without erasing either of us. This difference may sound subtle, yet it shapes everything. Independent love, the bond suffocates. One partner bends, hides, or sacrifices too much to keep the peace. In mature love, both stand in their full presence, neither shrinking to fit the other's expectations. Jung believed that true love is possible only when each person has faced their own shadow and learned to live, at least partly, in dialogue with the deeper self. Consider how many relationships fracture under the weight of unspoken demands: complete me, fix me, protect me from loneliness. These are burdens no one can carry forever. But when two people meet, not out of avoidance but out of wholeness, love transforms. It becomes not a bargain for safety but a shared adventure into the unknown. To love beyond dependency is to risk honesty, to say, I choose you, not because you fill my emptiness, but because our souls recognize each other's journey. Such love does not eliminate solitude. It honors it, making space for both togetherness and independence. This, Jung would say, is the paradox of real intimacy. Only when you are no longer afraid to be alone can you truly be with another. For many, solitude feels like an empty room echoing with silence. But Jung reframed it as a workshop of the soul, a place where the raw materials of experience are shaped into meaning. Without moments of aloneness, the psyche cannot listen to its own whispers. The distractions of constant companionship, social approval, and external noise drown out the deeper voice that longs to be heard. Think of artists who retreat into solitude, not because they despise others, but because creation demands space. A writer facing the blank page, a painter mixing colors in a quiet studio, a thinker staring out the window, all are gestures of turning inward. Jung saw this as more than artistry. He saw it as life itself seeking expression through us. Solitude, then, is not absence but presence, the presence of the self, waiting to reveal itself when the world grows quiet. This is why many people report their greatest insights arriving not in crowded rooms, but in those still hours walking alone in nature, journaling late at night, or sitting quietly in meditation. What seems like emptiness is, in truth, fertile ground. Jung believed that the unconscious delivers its treasures only when we dare to pause. And here lies the paradox. While society often warns us against loneliness, solitude is the very condition that allows us to create, to imagine, and to heal. Far from being a punishment, it is an initiation into one's own depths. If we learn to befriend it, solitude becomes not a cage, but a door opening into the boundless landscapes of the inner world. Freedom is a word we celebrate. Yet Jung reminds us it carries a hidden cost. To live authentically is to risk losing the comfort of belonging. When you choose to listen to the voice within, you may find that friends, family, or even a partner struggle to recognize the new you. They might prefer the version who followed the script, who didn't ask disruptive questions, who kept the peace by remaining predictable. This is the quiet price of freedom misunderstanding, distance, sometimes even rejection. It is easier, after all, to walk in the well-worn paths of convention than to step onto an untrodden road alone. But Jung believed that wholeness cannot be purchased cheaply. To individuate is to accept that approval may fade, and that the applause of the crowd may be replaced by silence. Yet in that silence, something remarkable happens. You begin to hear your own life speaking. You discover that meaning is not granted from outside, but forged within. The price of freedom is heavy, yes, but it also buys a different kind of wealth, the integrity of knowing you have not betrayed yourself. Think of a bird that leaves the safety of its cage. The cage offered food, protection, and familiarity. But in flight, the bird encounters wind, storms, uncertainty, and also the vastness of the open sky. That sky is the gift of freedom, and once tasted, no gilded bars can replace it. Jung's challenge is clear: dare the solitude, bear the cost. And you may find that the freedom gained outweighs everything left behind. Society often presents us with a polished image of success: marriage, career, stability, the approval of peers. On the surface, these things glitter. They promise safety, admiration, and a sense of belonging. Yet Jung would caution that such glitter can be deceiving. He called it the golden cage, a structure that looks beautiful from the outside, but quietly suffocates the soul within. Many step willingly into this cage because it seems to answer life's hardest questions. Who am I? Where do I belong? What will make me whole? But soon they discover the cost. To keep the cage intact, they must clip their own wings, hiding longings, silencing doubts, shelving dreams that do not fit the image. What remains is a life that may look enviable, yet feels strangely hollow. Jung's critique is not a condemnation of relationships, careers, or stability themselves, but of the unconscious bargain behind them. If we choose them out of fear, fear of loneliness, fear of disapproval, fear of the unknown, then we are not choosing freely at all. We are simply trading the vastness of possibility for the narrowness of certainty. The golden cage is seductive precisely because it disguises captivity as achievement. But those who have lived inside it know its secret, no matter how shiny the bars. They are still bars. Jung calls us to notice when comfort turns into confinement, and to ask whether the life we are living is truly ours, or simply the one that was handed to us. To step beyond that cage is daunting, yet only outside its walls can the wings of the self remember what they were made for. At the heart of Jung's message lies a choice so simple, yet so radical, to choose yourself. This is not the shallow self-indulgence our culture often confuses with freedom, but the deeper act of aligning your life with the truth that stirs inside you. To choose yourself means to refuse living as a reflection of others' expectations and to stand in the light of your own becoming. This choice can feel terrifying. It may cost you certain relationships, the comfort of fitting in, or the illusion of certainty. Yet Jung believed it is also the most loving act you can offer the world. For when you choose yourself, you do not abandon others, you meet them with a fuller presence, no longer asking them to carry your unfinished business. You bring instead the wholeness of someone who has dared the journey inward. Choosing yourself is not a one-time decision, but a daily practice. It looks like listening to your intuition when it whispers against the noise. It looks like setting boundaries where your soul feels drained. It looks like saying yes to solitude, yes to creativity, yes to the honest voice that insists your life is more than imitation. And paradoxically, this choice opens the door to love, connection, and meaning far greater than what dependency ever promised. For when you stand in your own center, you are finally free to meet others soul to soul, without masks, without cages. Jung would call this individuation the moment you recognize that the journey toward wholeness has always been yours to take, and the courage to walk it is the truest form of love you will ever know. As we reach the end, Jung's teaching circles back to a truth both unsettling and liberating: the journey of love. Freedom and meaning always begins within. The world may tell us that completion is found in partnership, status, or approval. But Jung reminds us that no outer possession can replace the task of becoming whole. Solitude, shadow, freedom, even the pain of loss, all of these are not detours, but doorways. To walk this path is not to reject love or community, but to meet them with new eyes. It is important to know that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's validation. It is to understand that true intimacy arises when two whole souls choose to walk beside one another, not to escape loneliness, but to share in the mystery of life. And it is important to remember that creativity, healing, and purpose are born when we dare to sit in silence and listen to the whisper of the self. The journey inward is lifelong. It is not neat or predictable, but it is real. Each step you take toward your own center brings a kind of freedom no cage can contain. Each act of choosing yourself is an act of love for your own soul, and for the world that quietly longs for people who live authentically. Thank you for walking through these reflections with me. If Jung's vision stirred something in you, I invite you to carry it into your own life through journaling, quiet reflection, or simply by noticing where you are tempted to trade authenticity for approval. Your presence here is a reminder that none of us walks this path entirely alone. I am grateful for your time, your support, and your courage to face the depths. Until next time, may you find strength in solitude, beauty in truth, and wholeness in the journey that has always been yours.